Hello and welcome to Access Chat. I'm delighted that we've been joined today by Matt Ney from Kakana. Matt's been attending our chats online for a little while now, but it's a really interesting avenue that you're talking about today, which is around exercise. So tell us a little bit more about your fitness business and what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, you guys have been amazing, and I find your chats to be highly engaging and interesting as well. So happy to be here. So Kakana is an accessible and inclusive fitness platform, and we go out and we stream live and on-demand fitness workouts daily to our members, and they can tap into our live classes with our instructors that are instructors with and without disabilities, or they can access our on-demand library at any point at any time. And our goal was really twofold, was to create high level, high quality workouts with a high production value and didn't lower the standard because it was quote unquote accessible. We wanted to really push the envelope and create workouts that someone would go into and feel when they left that it was worth it, it was fun, it was engaging, and they would come back, obviously. So that was the first point. And then the second side of it was really to create a community that wrapped around fitness and specifically accessible fitness so that individuals felt comfortable. They could hang out and be a part of like-minded group of people that would motivate them, push them, comfort them, and really for us, it was about creating a community and a brand that individuals felt excited about, and would scream that from the rooftops that, hey, this is what Kakana is. You should be a part of it as well. That they would share it out with their friends and their family, and it's be a brand that's impactful. And my question always at the beginning of this thing, and it was 2 years ago when I started the idea, was why can't there be a Peloton that is accessible? And this was pre-pandemic, and post, obviously, since then, there's been about 20 to 25 other streaming fitness platforms, none of which are accessible. And my question still arises, and now there's a couple coming out, and ours is one. But why can't there be a brand that is that moves the needle like the Pelotons of the world, except moves the needle towards accessibility? And my goal was always one of two things: make these other brands either contract us out or have them create accessible fitness on their own. If we've done that, then we've upset the fitness industry enough that makes accessibility relevant.
Excellent. That's a great explanation, and also a great and selfless ambition as well, as a disruptor, happy to either cause market change or be the change in the market. I think that's a really great approach. So you talked about the platform. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you came across this? What was your journey prior to starting Kakana? What motivated you to sort of get immersed in the fitness world and disability fitness and all the rest of it?
Yeah, so I had a previous company that was creating on-demand videos for teachers in the classroom. So really to combat sedentary behavior, get kids moving throughout the day, stimulate the brain. And while I was in the classroom, just doing some research and asking questions, I found that 25–30% of the students weren't participating. And you start asking questions about what's going on and what's wrong with our content and our videos, and some kids don't like them. Okay, that happens everywhere. But a lot of times it was they couldn't, they wouldn't, and you start diving in further, and we identified that special education, when kids were assimilated in, it didn't fit. Some kids couldn't participate. Some kids couldn't do the extent of it just because of their personal experiences. And so I went home and just started thinking to myself, well, it's not the teacher's problem. It wasn't the child's problem. It was my fault. I was the one that literally created content for 70% of the community or the students, and I just left out 30%. And it wasn't on purpose. I was naive and I was unaware. But from that point on, I started diving into what accessible fitness was, what inclusive exercise was, what does that mean, and what's out there. And pre-pandemic, I started trying to figure out what was out there that could be streamed. And I found like 3 videos on YouTube, and one person on YouTube that was doing it pretty consistently. And that was it. Everything else was really quite terrible. And so from there, I just kind of fell in love with the idea that you could really make change, and not a heart throbbing tap me on the back type thing. It was, this could really impact the world, not only in terms of accessibility, but look, it's a monster fitness. The fitness industry is huge, and so creating something that can actually move the needle, where there's nothing in that capacity yet, was really quite attractive, and off we went.
Excellent, thank you. Deborah, you I think have a question.
Yes, and I'm taking notes in the back room because it's very, very powerful, Matt. And I love what you, and I had another question, but I love the point that you just made. I created this for teachers. I started noticing 30% of the students weren't participating. And so instead of doing what society usually does, and I'll pick on Neil for a second. Well, Neil, he's just, he's not motivated enough to want to help, when actually Neil was struggling early on in school because of his dyslexia, right? So what we typically do in society is point at the individual, and you're the one that's not motivated, or you don't care, or whatever. And so I like that you didn't do that. You actually pointed to yourself, which is enlightened, and said, well, wait a minute, am I doing something that's stopping them? It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the student. So I think that's very brave to say that. I think it's very powerful, because I think a lot of us do that. We try to look and say, okay, well, if it's not working, is there a way that we can do it so that it could work? And so I just thought that was a very powerful point. And I'm going to make sure that's one of the questions that we ask. But the question that I wanted, it's sort of a comment, but the thing that I love about your work, which is why, I'm glad that you're participating in Access Chat, and that I featured you on my show, Human Potential at Work, but we have a really big community. We have a community, according to the World Health Organization, of over 1 billion people, probably more than that. And if our community alone would just support our community. So say that the community of people with disabilities got behind this and said, wow, really? So you're using instructors that have disabilities that are so talented. Many of the students, not all the students, have disabilities, very proud of their lived experiences. And there are students that don't have disabilities that really like doing exercise with your instructors, because your instructors are talented and they are really good at what they do, and they're fit and all the things. I was just thinking, what would happen if our community really got behind you, which is why we created Access Chat. I mean, that's why we created Access Chat. We did not think the community was engaging in these really, really important conversations. So I just would say to you, Matt, what do we need to do to really, besides what we're doing right now, but to make sure the community knows what you're doing? And then I think we should ask ourselves, certainly as Access Chat and as the community, what can we all do to do a better job of supporting the people that are supporting us in our community? So I'm asking really hard questions, but I think these are questions that we all need to think about as we're recreating the world after this pandemic.
Yeah, I say so. I mean, Kakana is right now, we're kind of focused on adults. So, it could be anywhere from, 16, 17, 18, all the way up to, we've got a 65-year-old member. So, it really does span a pretty wide range. And the reason I say that is because one of the things I found in the lead up to it, and even still, was everything came to, well, are you okay with, just marketing to individuals with disabilities? Is it okay to quote unquote take advantage? Are you doing a nonprofit? And I was like, no, it's a for-profit. It's it's $14.99 a month. We try to price it at a reasonable place so that if you did 3 or 4 classes a week, you'd be under $1 a class, which is about 1/10 of a gym membership. And one of the things that I came to realize was Kakana is not going to be apologizing for pushing out a product that we think is good. And one of the things that I always talk about is we're going to be unapologetic about our boldness and our brand and being amazing at what we do. And if communities of individuals with disabilities and without disabilities like what Kakana is doing, they're going to sign up. And if they don't, that's okay too, because that means there's a product out in the ecosystem that people can choose to participate in or not. And I mean, if you look at Peloton versus Mirror versus Tonal versus Tidal versus Tempo versus, it goes on and on. That's a choice of 25 different platforms. Well, now you've got Kakana, you've got some nonprofits that are doing streaming because of COVID. You can choose now. You can choose whether you want to do X, Y, or Z. And no one has to apologize for that. And so kind of back to your comment where if communities would get behind it, I think it's getting to choose and getting to put your money where you think it's best served. And look, the disability communities have a monster ability to sway in the financial side of things. And it is a monster community when it comes to wielding power financially. And for me, put Kakana out there, let them decide. And if it thrives and goes forward, then we've done something right. And if it needs to be tweaked because, okay, something's not going right, that's okay too. And really that's what I think needs to happen more is more options, more people and more companies that provide those options. And hey, then you get capitalism.
So Matt, with some extended offer and opportunities, what is still stopping people from exercising? Do people feel, oh, there's a platform for me? I have certain needs. Maybe I can't do certain exercises. What can we do to make people more active?
Yeah. So first, you've kind of got to beat down all of the walls and the myths and the preconceived notions that have been hammered into people's heads for so long, right? So you go to a gym or pre-COVID, you go to a gym, and how do you get into the gym? Is it accessible in the parking lot? Is the doorway, is the ramp is available, right? When you get into the gym, there was studies done a couple of years ago that the most accessible thing in this study were the water fountains. And so, I mean, if that's the starting point, what about the equipment? What about the bathrooms? What about the showers? So having to battle that, right, and fight every day. And then we haven't even talked about the instructors at these gyms, right? What if you don't know what you're doing and you need help? Do you ask again for help? Is it just too much to have to do something else? And so what we wanted to try to do was make Kakana a lot easier to start. And if you've already started, you can just get in and you're ready to go in terms of the engaging and competitive side, but your competitive side, right? So if you stream, you don't have to leave the home. We have very limited equipment that you have to use. It is done by instructors with and without disabilities who have experienced what our members have experienced throughout their lives. And it helps them to connect with our members and say, look, it's okay. Take your time, right? You don't have to do 70 reps or 7 reps. You can do 3, right? You can do 5, and you can ease your way into the process. All of our workouts are done on time, and that's on purpose. So we have Paralympians that join our classes, and we have, like I said before, a 65-year-old individual. Well, the Paralympian may be cycling 6 miles, 7 miles. The beginner may be doing 2 miles. And that's okay because you're in your own kind of bubble working off each other in terms of your connection to them, but you're not being affected by what someone else is doing fitness wise, right? So my thought process is always make sure the community is welcoming enough and fully embrace everybody. That allows people to be more comfortable. That allows people to kind of push themselves or maybe get outside their box a little bit more than they wouldn't have before. And if someone's more comfortable, they feel more confident, they're going to try harder. They're going to give more effort. And really at the end of the day, then they're going to become more fit and more healthy.
Yeah, well said. I was thinking back to what you were saying around sort of the business model, and particularly I think that there has been this whole thing of disability equates to charity, and one of the things that I am really keen for, and you said, and then you end up with capitalism, and to a certain extent, naked capitalism has had a bit of a bad rap, and deservedly so. But we still need compassionate capitalism, and one of the things that I really want to do is essentially make it more profitable to do good stuff than to do bad stuff. Why should we associate business success with doing things that are bad for the environment and the community and for individuals? Why should we celebrate that? Should we not be rewarding the companies and the individuals that are doing good for society and attributing far more monetary value to that? I think that when we start doing those kind of things, and I think that society in general is at an inflection point with some of this right now, that we will change. So I really like the fact that you want to make money from the platform. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. In fact, you should make good money from doing good things. And I'll keep repeating this because I think it is really important that social enterprises are also profitable enterprises, because that's how we change our society and we end up in a better place to live for everyone. In terms of the stuff about sort of competition and tracking and so on, are people able to track their own progress metrics as well in the platform? So over time, yeah.
So they can track the classes they take, and they if they want to track their outputs, so their pushes, if you're a wheelchair user, your calories, we tend to just recommend an iWatch or, one of the fitness bands. We're not a hardware company yet, hopefully. But they can track the amount of classes they can take. And then as, if anything else, you can track what you're doing from a device. And that's the way we've kind of started it, so that individuals have that access if they want. And they can also, you can kind of take away what you're doing on a 30-minute class. If you track it once, at least then you can get a decent barometer. But I mean, going back to your business model comment, I think people are unaware, if you do good, if you open up your brand to communities that are not marketed to on a regular basis, it opens up a whole nother line of cash and cash flow. I mean, you look at some of these adaptive fashion companies that are starting to dial in their brands, and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars off adaptive wear. And, I forget the stat. Was it $7 trillion of economic of disposal or income that can be wielded?
Yeah, I think it was Dana said it was 8.
With family and friends. We're not talking about, small dollars here. We're talking about a monster community that is really wide open for a lot of different disruption. And if you do it in a responsible way, and look, being in and around Kakana for 2 years now, from idea to now where we are, you see a lot of price gouging, and I think that is the opposite approach that we wanted to take. We wanted to be a complement, but I think that even provides another opportunity down the line for companies or Kakana or Access Chat or whoever it is, right, to then come underneath and start driving prices lower and getting more people to buy their products. So I think, there's a lot of opportunity. It's just, how do you market? How do you show that you're authentic in what you're doing, and put it in the right spot so people can find you?
Matt, I know that since COVID-19, the way I exercise, because exercise always has been a very big part of my life. But it has changed dramatically. Before COVID-19, before the pandemic, I'm a member of American Family Fitness here in Virginia. And I was at the gym 3 to 5 times every week. And I was doing Zumba, love to do Zumba, and I was doing weights. And I was always in the classes because I get a lot of energy from other people. And but at the same time, there were things happening in my personal life that was making it more difficult for me to go to the gym. And then the pandemic happened. And even though my gym opened up slightly during the pandemic, I haven't been back. I haven't been to my gym since before that, but I have exercised, actually signed up for Kakana for a membership because you have a free trial membership. But what I wonder is, the other day somebody was asking me when I thought, did I think the conferences were going to start again? And was it going to be 100,000 people in a room like before, or some kind of, is it only virtual? Well, I think it's sort of the same thing with the gyms. I personally think that the conference organizers are starting to understand the value of these virtual events, but I like the blended approach where we can be in person and blended if you can't come, things like that. Is there the same opportunity? It seems like there's the same opportunity with what you're doing, because you have these really amazing instructors, you have quality classes, everything is fully accessible. It seems like my gym, for example, I know that they work with, I think, Beachbody or something. They get these classes and they do these launches every 6 weeks. Here's the new classes. Seems like there'd be an opportunity for you to take what you're doing and also offer it to, the you know, the gyms, or even you mentioned Paladon, or is there an opportunity for you to take what you're doing to also work with the others in the industry to make sure that they have more accessible content and they see it's possible?
Short answer is yes. And then the longer answer is, I think it's something that can be collaborated and partnered with 7, 8, 9 different industries. And so if you look at the gym, if you look at a gym, a specific gym or a chain of gyms, there's no different between a gym and, let's say, Marriott hotels or Hilton hotels. And Hilton Hotel, not only gyms, but rooms. And you look at hospital rehab centers, right? So someone reminded me the other day that there's been adapted rec out there for 40, 50 years. We're not adaptive rec or therapy, we're after the fact, right? So with these big hospitals, what happens when someone has left rehabilitation and is now transitioning back into their day-to-day lives? Can Kakana then be the kind of extension there to keep them from backsliding, right? Back to the gyms, what makes a gym special is the ability to go see other people, get a workout. The atmosphere, the environment is built to kind of stack on top and get you to do what you want to do, right? So how do you replicate that when you're in your home by yourself? And that was a big deal for me, was how do you create an environment that someone wants to come back every day? And it's no different than the gym. And so what we did was, and this can be assimilated into, if gyms wanted to license it to spit out classes, but we do a virtual locker room. And so our instructors get on 10 minutes early and we hang out, we talk, no different than this on Zoom. And, the conversation can be as silly as what TV shows you're watching, what your favorite Thanksgiving side was, or as complex and as important as, hey, I couldn't do this exercise yesterday. Can you show me an adaptation for me specifically? And I forget, we were talking a little bit earlier about, I think it was Antonio that asked about, pitfalls and getting people to exercise. Well, one of those pitfalls is it's not for me. And Kakana is for everybody, because what we do is, if someone can't reach their hands over their head, here's an adaptation, you go out in front. And it's not an adaptation that just says, here, do it, and it won't work. It's a calculated adaptation that gets your muscles moving and helps your specific body. And these virtual locker rooms are no different than when you're walking into a gym, you're rolling into a gym, you're going into a gym and you see your friends and you're hanging out beforehand. And then you hang out after, and we stay 2 minutes, 3 minutes after. And these collaborations, these conversations help to unite people. And we have, we have members who are in our beta class and are now paying members. They're now friends. They text, they email. And because of this accumulation of 10 minutes over the course of, 4 or 5 months. And I think that virtual or that communal and that community side helps to replicate what you would do at a gym, but also helps to then allow gyms to say, this is important for us to put into our programming, or a hotel industry to put into their programming, because now they can not just link one singular person, but a bunch of people around the world.
Yeah.
I love that point, because the women that I danced with, and the men, but it was mainly women in Zumba, these are my dear friends, and I miss them so bad. I miss them. We all tried doing Zoom and stuff, and at first it was confusing, but it was, that's a very good point. Neil, let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think the community thing is powerful, right? I think that's something that we've grown and we've seen with Access Chat. We've made loads of friends over the nearly 7 years that we've been doing this, genuinely heartfelt friends, as part of this community that grew up virtually. And, you know, we've now met some of them in real life, but there are plenty of others that we've not met that we would still consider friends. And that really, you know, I think is really great what you're doing. And I think the value add of the staying around afterwards in the locker room is really nice. I really like that. And I think that also the time that we're in where people are lonely right now, that sense of community is really good. I mean, I like many other people exercise at home. I've actually been exercising at home before, but I've been doing more during the pandemic because it's my only escape.
Yeah.
You know, without it, I don't know what kind of state I would be in, because essentially that switch from the cerebral to the physical is what enables me to turn off after, you know, 10 or 11 hours in front of a screen. So actually my exercise, I you know, is super important for my mental well-being as well as my my physical well-being. And you know, if you can combine that, and you know, you can do this, and it's adapted to meet the needs of older people, people with disabilities, I think this is, and they can feel connected, that's really valuable. So kudos to you for what you're doing. I think we've pretty much reached the end of our time for the chat, but I'm really looking forward to the discussion on Tuesday on Twitter. I know that we'll get a few of our regulars super interested, because you know, we've got some people interested in disability sport that join regularly, Mark Bullock being one of them.
I've talked a couple times.
Good, excellent. You know, there's definitely a budding partnership there. You know, you should be instructing on your platform. So yeah, just remains for me to say, you know, thank you to Barclays Access, Microlink and MyClearText for keeping us on air and keeping us captioned, keeping us accessible. And thank you for the work that you're doing in your business.
Thank you guys too. This was amazing, and look forward to Tuesday.
Thank you, Matt.